What's going on, fam? It's Justin, aka Jiggy with J, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my design process of an idea that I had inspired by Ye and Ty Dolla $ign's Vultures. The concept is pretty simple as it features the Jason Voorhees mask that Ye's been wearing to a lot of his listening parties. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. First thing you're going to want to do is open up Photoshop and create a new file. I like to work in inches, so we'll do that. For width, we'll set it at 16, height 20, with the resolution of 300. Once you have that, click on create. Now we have a blank canvas to work with. The next thing you're going to want to do is hop into Google and search up the mask. We'll go into images, filter it by large, and we'll just pick one of these. Looks good. Copy it and paste it. And yo, definitely not what I was expecting, but that's okay. I'll go ahead and save this instead. And luckily I have this AI tool called Upscale, which can turn low res images to high res. So we'll go ahead and do that. Once the upscale is done, we'll hop back into Photoshop and we'll import the image. We'll select all, copy, paste it onto the canvas. Much better. So you're going to want to scale it down to about the same size as the artboard. And what you're going to do next is take the rectangle marquee tool and try to get it to the center of the mask. And what I'm doing here is pretty much making both sides of the mask symmetrical. So we'll delete one side, select the other side, and paste. And what we'll do is flip it horizontally and fuse the two parts together. Once that looks good, you're going to select both of the layers and merge them together. Cool. So now what we're going to do is cut out the mask from the white background. And what I like to do is use the object selection tool. We'll click on the mask. Did a pretty good job at selecting, so we'll go ahead and cut it out, delete the layer, and then paste the mask back in. Once that's done, we'll select the mask again, and we'll try to go in here and look for any imperfections. So I could see some down here. And what we'll do is we'll take the spot healing tool and we'll try to spot these out. Once that's done, I'll take the smudge tool and we'll go over it to make it a little bit more smooth. So now once that's done, I'll go ahead and make sure the mask is round at the top because it looks kind of squared out. So the next part is to cut out the circles of the mask, because the person behind the mask is definitely not Ye, so we'll go ahead and cut the circles out. Go ahead and select the pen tool and outline the circle. Once that's done, make a selection, and what you're going to do is copy and paste it back, and we'll move on to the next part of the mask. Same thing, we're going to select the whole circle or oval. Make selection, copy, paste, and then go down to the last three holes and do the same thing again. So now what you're going to do is select all the layers that you cut out, merge, select the layer again, and you'll notice that the circles we made are outlined and selected. So what you're going to do now is hide that layer, go onto the first layer and hit delete. There you go. We got one side down, and now let's work on the other side. So unhide the layer, transform it and flip it, select the layer, hide that layer, and now we can move this over. And once you have it aligned, hit delete, and there you go. So now that the mask is cut out, let's look for an image of Ye that we can replace with the background. I couldn't really find a good image, so we're gonna have to screen grab from the music video talking and see if we can find a good shot. I like this right here. So what I'll do is try to full screen it, and what I'll do here is take a screenshot. So the screenshot ended up being too small, so we'll go ahead and do the same thing again as we did before, and we'll upscale the screenshot. Once that's done, we'll hop into Photoshop and open up the file. Copy, paste it, and we're going to take this layer and put it behind the mask. Set the mask opacity to about, I'm going to say 50, so that we can see where the face is behind it. Now we'll select image of Ye, and we'll try to align it. Scale it up a little bit. Looks pretty good right there. And once that's done, we'll put it back to 100 opacity. Select the mask layer, and then add a layer mask. So now you have Ye's face behind the mask. So the next part, I'm going to take the burn tool and just kind of go over the mask or the layer of Ye to make it darker. Next, we're going to go ahead and desaturate the layer so that it's black and white, and we'll try to apply a sharpen filter to it. I'll also go ahead and grab the sharpen tool and go over the eyes, making it a little bit more crispy. Next, we can play around with some contrast and brightness, and this part you can just adjust it to however you like. So I think that's pretty good right here. Click OK, and now we pretty much have the mask done. Now the next part, you don't really have to do this, but if you want to create a more dramatic effect, you can use selective color and kind of add more of a grunginess and vibe to it. You can also add a threshold to add to the grunginess. You can play around with the opacity, bring it down a little bit. I think it looks pretty good at around 3%. You can also play around with the mask. You get a little darker, add more shadows, and it looks pretty good to me. The next part is not necessary, but it definitely sells the design, and that's to add some grunge. So I'll go ahead and go into Google and search up some grunge textures. I think this one looks pretty good. So copy image, paste it back into Photoshop. Now this part, you don't really need to upscale the image. You can kind of stretch it out. If it gets pixelated, that's okay. You can still work with it. So next we could just go into the blend modes and just play around with the settings until you find something that looks pretty good. Multiply looks pretty good to me. You can also move it around, get it to a point you like. That looks pretty good right there. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna select the mask again, and we're gonna put a layer mask on the texture layer to cut it out. And here you can adjust the opacity and just play around with it to get it to where you like it. I think around 80% looks pretty good. You can adjust the threshold some more if you like. And also you can add some curves to the mask if you want to play around with it some more. There's really no wrong way to do this, it's just up to your preference. I think it looks pretty good right there. So now that you have the mask done, let's see what it looks like on a shirt. This looks pretty good right here, so we'll copy it and we'll open a new file. For this, we can go with 1920 and 1080. Resolution at 72 is okay, because you're just using this as a mock-up and not print. So we'll paste this in here, transform, we'll enlarge it a little bit. You can desaturate it so it's a clean black and white. We'll spot heal this logo out. Cool, now you have a blank mockup to work with. So we'll go back into our mask, and since we're done with this, what I'm gonna do is select all the layers and convert it to a smart object. Once that's done, we're going to copy it and paste it into the mockup. Scale it down. Looks pretty good right there. What's good about doing a mockup like this is that you get a clear visual of what your design looks like on a piece of clothing before you print on it. So that looks pretty good right there, but let's add some details to make it look more realistic. So what I'm going to do now is click on the mockup layer. I'm going to duplicate it, and what we're going to do is take this layer and put it above the mask. Then we're going to go ahead and change the blend mode to hard light, and we're going to mask it to the mask. Next, we're going to go to curves, and what we're going to do here is pretty much play with the settings until we get something we like. So I could drag this point here, move it over to the left to make it brighter, move it to the right to make it darker. But let's go ahead and move it to the left. You'll see the shadows and creases of the shirt here, which makes it a lot more realistic. You can even play with this point down here if you want. It's totally up to you. And that pretty much does it. Now you can apply this to not only an easy mask, but you can use this method for any other design print that you might have and get a good looking mock-up like this. So I hope you learned something new today. If you did, hit that like, leave a comment. If you have any questions, or hit me up on IG through DM, and I'll definitely keep in touch with you guys. And until the next video, thanks for watching. Peace.